Welcome to Ripcaster. My name is John Nelson and we're a Linn dealer based in the UK between Reading and Oxford. Today's video is all about the Linn Majik LP12. What we're going to do is take you through the components in an LP12 and go through the complete build process. As you may know, the LP12 is delivered to us, the dealer, in component form, and we then build and configure it and calibrate it ready for delivery to you in your home so that you can enjoy the music. Let's have a look at the components. Here we've got all the actual components laid out on the table in front of us in a fairly random order. First up, you can see the actual plinth itself. This is a custom plinth in a VW automotive colour. On the inside there you can see the two hinges. Next we've got the bearing kit. You can see the suspension parts, the springs, the upper and lower bushes and the washers and retaining nuts. We've got a bottle of oil. To the right there is the carousel bearing and then the actual inner platter itself at the rear. Next we've got the sub chassis. So on a Majik turntable this is a two-part assembly. Both the sub chassis itself and the armboard, which are secured together. Next we've got, still in its packaging, the top plate and then the power supply. So it's a Majik 33 RPM power supply, the switch and the motor and the drive belt. And then at the rear here we've got the actual platter and felt mat itself, the Krane Tonearm in the brown box, and the drive belts, the feet off the bottom, and also the coil, moving coil cartridge. Alright, so that's all the components that go into an LP12. Let's have a look how it is assembled. If you're interested in the way that the LP12 is put together, we've created a microsite at expert.ripcaster.co.uk where you can buy all the individual components and spares, and it's quite a useful way to be able to explore the way that the system is put together, and you can zoom in and out, etc., and you can see all the different components. So what we're going to do now is clear the table in front of me and we'll make a start on the build. So the first thing we're going to start with is the actual plinth itself. This is a brand new one. It's got a number of pre-drilled holes to accept how we secure various things. And what I'm going to do first is run in some wood screws into each of those holes at this stage, just so that it's nice and easy when I come to attach the actual components. Okay, so that's all of the screw holes that we're going to use fitted in with the screws. We'll remove those, but now we've got good clean holes that we know that the screw's going to go in squarely. So I've removed all the screws, and what we'll do now is just fit these back plates for the hinges. So there are two of those with 8 screws. Okay, so that's our 2 hinges fixed. I've put the plinth on one side, and I've now got the top plate. We need to fit these 5 set screws into this. 2 of them are used to hold the top plate in the plinth, and the other 3 are used to suspend the sub chassis from. We'll just tighten these studs up. So that's our studs in place. Since we've got the top off, we can also put in place the belt guide. Okay, and since we're here, we can put the screws in, which will ultimately allow us to adjust the motor speed. This is a Majik motor is going to go in there. That's our top plate partially assembled. What we'll do now is put that in the actual plinth. So if we bring the plinth over here, we can now So this stud goes in this back corner here. That sits in there, and we can just use these two Phillips screws here to hold the top plate in the chassis. Okay, so that's kind of step one. Plinth and top plate in. Now, what next we're going to do is put it in the actual jig, and we'll secure everything in the actual base. Next, we're going to work on the sub chassis. It comes in a two-part assembly on a Majik LP12. We've got an earthing strap here, and the armboard, which will be fastened on here. And then when we've done as much as we can on the sub chassis, we'll then install that in the plinth. So we've got the armboard here and the sub chassis. This is held in place by 3 screws. So we'll just put these in and get them started, and not quite fully nip them up because there is some small adjustments we can make. So I may adjust these later. Alright, so we've got our sub chassis and our armboard. Next we're going to fit the carousel bearing in here. It's a two-part design. If we just take the top half off, like so, you can see the actual bearing itself here, and we've got these lugs around the outside. They match with these in here. It just sits in there. It just sits in there, and then we do that. We take the protective cap off, and we use a torque wrench on this to torque this correctly. So that's the carousel bearing done. Next we'll fit the arm collar for the tonearm. So I'll put this on one side and we'll just have a quick look at the tonearm. So the tonearm on a Majik LP12 is the Krane. And up the packaging. So here's the actual tonearm itself. And in the box we have got securing screws and a balanced. This is the actual arm collar that we're going to fit to the armboard and the counterweight. So let's put these on one side and we'll fit the counterweight. So here's the arm collar. Got an adjustment here, so that's going to sit like so. And that's secured in place via some set screws in the back. Again, there is some slight adjustment on this. I'm just going to tighten these. I'll come back to these later. So at this stage we've got effectively our sub chassis ready to go in the deck. So what I've done now is I've got an LP12 jig here, essential really for maintaining and supporting LP12s. I've put the plinth upside down in the jig. This allows us to work on the top and the bottom of the LP12 in this configuration. We'll now work on the base of the unit and build it up before flipping it over the right way around. Okay, so swap camera angles, and you can now see the base of the plinth with the top plate fixed in there. We can see these studs, and we can also see this stud here, which we have secured with a mudguard washer and a nut, and that is torqued in. And now we can put our sub chassis in. So that's just resting inside, and what we're going to do now is just put the suspension components together on each of these. Okay, so these are the suspension components. So we've got the upper bush, the spring, the lower bush, mudguard washer and retaining nut, and they are going to go on each one of these here here and here. Put the bush in. So that's the bushes in, then the springs. Then the lower bush. And then mudguard washers and the lock nut. Just do these by hand. So there you see it, the springs on here, and what we'll do when we've got the deck the right way up and all the other components in here, it's these nuts here that we adjust to get the suspension working correctly. Next we're going to add the cross brace that goes in here. So this is the cross brace. This particular one has got the standoffs for the Majik power supply. So this has got 4 wood screws, and then we've got some nuts, etc. to hold that down. So let's just put the wood screws in. Next we'll put some mudguard washers and additional nuts on here again, and anchor it to the top plate. Next I'm going to put this earthing strap on here, and again another nut. Tighten that. Next I'm going to put the switch for the motor control in. That just fits in the cutout in the top plate here, so I'll just thread that up through here like so, and then it's just a press fit in here like so, and that will allow us to the cable. So this is the circuit board for the Majik power supply, and what we're going to do here is just fit these connections. 1, 2, so that looks like that, and then this is going to sit on here. Right, so we'll now just secure this board on the standoffs. And next we'll put the protective cover on it to keep it all nice and safe. No, we won't. We'll do it this way. Put the protective cover on it, like so. That's held down with 4 more screws. We've got our Majik motor supply. We've got our main switch installed here. Next we're going to install the motor and connect that to the supply. So next we're going to fit the motor, and here are the components. So we've got the motor and the connection to the power supply, and that's held in by these 2 screws going through these domed spaces and then the nuts on the end. So we will position this in the turntable, and effectively it's going to go like so. We have one, whoops, that's going to come through the top into there, one more domed there, and a nut. So when it's assembled in the turntable, it looks like that. A multi-handed operation. I'm going to feed the screw up through the holes in the top plate. Then I'm going to put one of the domed spacers on, and then I'll put the motor in, and then we put one more of the domed spacers and then a nut. And we can tighten that up using a little. So that's one side done, and we'll do the same for the other side now. Get it kind of right, and we'll do the fine adjustments once we've got everything back in. And then this cable is going to go into the Majik power supply and just plugs into as a socket in the back of the power supply here. I'm going to put that through this clamp as well. That's our motor all in place. This also needs a mains power supply. Now it's supplied on a normal IEC cable with a pre-molded plug. Depending on what territory you're in, you get a different plug. This is going to go in here in the side of the power supply, and then it's routed in this slot and then out through this cable clamp here. So we just need to fit a cable clamp in there. So I've routed my cable and we've got our cable clamp here. We just need to tighten that up, make sure that's nice and flat so that we're not proud of this ridge here. Basically the base of the table done now. What we've got to do now is the signal cable from the bottom of the tonearm through to the P-clip that we're going to put on here and then route that out here. So this is the signal cable for the tonearm. So this is going to go into our phono stage, and this goes into the bottom of the tonearm. And that's going to go through a P-clip that we're going to put on here. It's going to come out the back of the turntable here, and we're going to position this so that as the bottom of the tonearm, which goes into here, so that this can move freely, unhindering the sub-chassis when that moves. I have the P-clip and the clamp and the O-rings. So basically we're going to put this over the cable and these over the outside here to lock it in place, and then we'll put the P-clip over that and over the spigot here. So there is a little bit of trickery to this next stage. So what we need to do is get the O-rings on here. So that's one. And the second one. So we've now got the O-rings in place, and what we want to achieve is to fix this in the correct position so that as the P-clip is here, the clamp around the cable here, and so that we've got it sitting perfectly into the bottom of the tonearm. Okay, so you can see the O-rings in place now, and we've got the two conductors, signal cables, and the earthing wire in the middle. And we're going to adjust the position of this on the cable to get this correct for where this is going to sit. And the P-clip is going to go on like so. And we're just going to again set this correctly. There's another mudguard washer goes on here. this is going to go like so, and another nut on there. Just dressing the cables, and what we want is a nice relaxed And so we've got our P-clip secure now. We've got this, there's an earthing strap here, so we just need to fix that to there. So we are more or less done on the base of this. So what we're going to do now is turn the table up the other way around and start fitting the top of the deck. So we've flipped the turntable over now and tightened up things like the mounting brackets, etc. Next thing we're going to do is fill the oil in the bearing, put the inner platter on, check the configuration on this before we balance the sub-chassis, etc. So we've got our oil, so we'll fill the oil in there. We've got the inner platter here, so I'll just take the protect tune off the single point bearing. I'll just put a little bit of oil on this just to ease it into the bearing. Okay, so that gets us our inner platter done. We can put the belt on, and we're just going to load everything onto the turntable that's going to be fitted, and then what we'll do is we'll set the suspension. When we get to do that, it's important obviously that the turntable is level. So I will get the spirit level out, just make sure that the plinth is level before we start doing that. So next I'm going to mount the tonearm in here. Before we do that, we'll fit the cartridge, which in this instance will be the coil, and the counterweight onto the tonearm. So now I've mounted the cartridge on the tonearm, and we've got the counterweight on the back here. Before we install that, we'll just check the geometry between here and here, and we have a tool that allows us to do that. Allows us to make sure that we've got this configured right. And it will allow me now to tighten up those 3 screws underneath, just to make sure that the Armboard is in the correct place and the collar is the correct place. Okay, so we'll just put the tonearm in approximately where we want it to go. So we've now got the tonearm in its basic position. I'm going to put the outer platter on just so we've got it fully loaded, like so. And what we're going to do now is adjust the suspension points, adding tension into these springs until the suspension is level and square in here. Okay, so I've changed the camera angle now, and you can see the three suspension points that we're going to adjust, and you can see our signal cable that we need to put in the base of the tone arm. So we'll just, there we go. And I just need to tighten up the grub screw. We've got our signal cable into the bottom of the tone arm, and we're now going to adjust these three to just bring the tone, level the deck up. We can kind of get approximately right. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the top of the deck, and I'm just looking at the lines between the armboard and making sure that it's starting to bounce as I would expect. I've changed the camera angle slightly again, so now you can see that this is more or less level, and what we're looking for is to get the bounce nice and even, and we're also looking at these lines and gaps around the armboard. And I can demonstrate, if I slacken off one of these, you'll see, if I do this, you'll see how it dips down. Tighten it up again. And it's just a question of just getting it so that it bounces nicely, checking that everything is level. And what we'll do now is, now that we're kind of close, we'll put the Platter the correct way on, like so, and we'll also put the mat on so that we are in the right kind of ballpark. Okay, we've spent a little bit more time on the suspension. We're getting close now. Suspension is looking good. Next thing we need to do is to just calibrate the motor speed, just to make sure that it's running as we expect. And we're going to do that by altering these two screws, and that basically alters the angle of the motor, and that slight change in position of the motor adjusts the speed. So we just need to get that calibrated at 33 RPM, and we'll do that manually. A little repetitive task of measuring the speed, adjusting these, measuring it, adjusting, measuring, adjusting, etc. Right, so we've got the motor set up going at the correct speed. The only thing that's left to do now is to put the baseboard on and the feet, and then once we've got the deck in position ready to play, we'll then adjust the height of the arm in the toner, in the collar, and set the tracking force, etc. Right, so I've changed the camera angle again. You can see the base of the deck now, it's all completed. We've got our mains cable going out here, and we've got our signal cables coming out here. And what we have to fit now is the baseboard and the feet. The actual earthing cable goes onto this stud here, and it sits up in this place. Now, you need about 20 hands to do this, so we use a scissor lift, which puts everything in position and allows us to work easily. So, first thing we're going to do is fit this earthing cable. And I'm just going to put a couple of coils in this just so that it goes up nicely into this area. We'll put this on a like so. So that's connected correctly. Just give that a couple of tweaks with my... Okay, so they've got our good earth, and now I'm just going to raise this so that it's in the correct position, making sure we're not trapping anything. Like so. So that's all good. This is where, having had screws in these holes before, it all becomes a little bit easier. Again, I'm just going to start them and then we'll nip them up when they're all in the right position. Okay, so I can take this away now. We can focus on the ones with the washers. Now it's just the rubber feet, so we've got 4 of those. Again, having had them in here before, it's much easier. Alright, so that's the majority of the build complete now. We just need to put the lid on, and then we'll set it up in our listening position. We'll check the vertical position of the tone arm in the collar, adjust our tracking weight and our anti-skating, and then we're good to go. Alright, so there we have it, the complete build of a Majik LP12 using a moving coil cartridge and a custom plinth. We've got it set up here in a typical configuration with a pair of speakers in the same custom finish and a Linn Selekt Edition network music player. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.